finishing a program, then you're sort of like thrown into cold water that is the performance art market of how do I survive, how do I carry the big sack of projects by myself, whether it's things that I've already done or whether it's new things that I have to start on my own or without a structure. The question is, well, what do I do next? How can I go on after that project is done? And how do I also survive financially from the things that many people do when they don't instantly become super successful and rich artists, you know, like delivering pizza and working in a bar and trying to figure out how to finance your things onto the next project. Of course, it's also a reality.
There's like a little bit strange story. Especially after I graduated, I put myself working because I cannot stop. I cannot be in life without doing anything. And at some point I also have to provide myself conditions to live in the city or whatever city I choose to live. In this case, in Berlin. And I saw myself working in a Bäckerei. And of course, before I worked, when I was an actor in Portugal, I worked in restaurants, in Barcelona as well. New York I didn't need it because I was being paid to be there to work as a video archivist. But after the master program, I saw myself cleaning at the end of the day, I saw myself cleaning the places where we empty all the trash. And I asked myself, like, what happened? You know, what happened? And I was a little bit disturbed by this because I was still trying to understand where I was. I was trying to digest all this process of gathering a practice, gathering a discourse, of having a practice. And yet I was seeing myself, I cannot say in the exact same space, but in the space of labor, in the space of working, I've cleaned many places where we separate food, and it's not the trash, it's just like a place where we separate dishes from food, from papers, from plastics. Although this was slightly different, the light was different, the space itself was different, but I was in that space many times in different countries, you know, while still trying to have an artistic lifestyle, let's say.
It's kind of strange for me to look at things in terms of before and after it. I mean, yes, this program is incredibly intensive, incredibly immersive, and there are several things that I can say about myself that I have gained from it, including definite analytical tools and definite, you know, I have the right to wear the cap of an official artist, whatever bullshit that may entail in it, to call bullshit out in the art world, of which there's plenty with some sort of sense of authority. But despite of that, and those are definite skills and definite things and a level of confidence that are helpful and that you take with you, you gain in the program and then you take with you. The things that happen maybe to me because I am older and I've done things in my life is that you go back into your life and you use that in your basket of tools that you have to continue life as it was before, you know, with your struggles, with the rest of your life, with the rest of the political engagements that I am in, and with my artistic projects that I am doing. Hopefully I have a little bit more, I don't know, support or tools or analytical tools to help me with executing my artistic careers, but it's essentially going back to that. And so I don't feel like, you know, I've stepped up into the world in some majestic sense.
I totally understand that education should not be market-oriented, but it should be included a sense of strategy and a sense of awareness, a sense in educating students.
And then actually after SODA, I think a bit like against my expectations and perhaps other people's expectations, I didn't, so it came the art time because I applied to many institutions and fundings and whatever, and then I got very, like, lots of no answers, and so it was really, so after coming out of this cocoon, where your practice is really support and you have the conditions that you need, and you don't need to, to knock other people's door to say like, hey, can I premiere here? Can you please let me premiere here? Because like, anyway, it's your assessment, so you have to do it. So to come back to, it was a bit like, I was not expecting, but this happened. And now I'm like, so 2 years after, actually, I'm finally having like the minimal and very minimal conditions to finally premiere a work. And yes, and to find a team that accepts also to collaborate in these kind of like precarious or miserable conditions, I would say. And so my post-SODA, it was not so happy.
After graduating, I think something very strange happened to time. I think time became, because we'd been so focused and so concentrated and so productive all up until a point, then there was this kind of inevitable sort of drop-off of activity or just engagement having graduated. And yet there was all this motivation. I felt very motivated. And I realised quickly that the outside world was not as excited necessarily as me, as about what I was doing. But that's not to say they weren't interested at all, because it took a very long time, I suppose, like, months, for anything in terms of performance to kind of mobilise. And then like 6 to 8 months later, I found myself performing my thesis performance again in various places, which I was really happy to do. I mean, it was strange to go back and revisit that material, but it was relatively easy. But in a sense, time had just kind of been on some kind of weird pause, kind of creatively speaking, until really the sort of autumn of last year. And so everything in between that was really about finding myself having graduated and turning 35 and just wondering what the hell that was all about. And so kind of having a bit of a meltdown, really. Basically, and which I guess was necessary. And in terms of where I'm at now, I mean, what I had done on SODA enabled me to apply for a grant, which I got. So this year I'm pretty fortunate, and I'm being supported by some money by the Einsteigförderung from the Berlin Senate. It's a kind of privileged place to be, but it's also a bit of a strange place to be, to find yourself being supported and yet not necessarily in any kind of demand.
Just maybe one thing that made me think about it. There's something that has been extremely alienating to me being in this program, both because it is an institution, I'm a non-institutional person, and because the way in which it carves people to focus on their art and their projects and whatever it is that they're doing, it really requires a retreat from the outside world and then not paying attention to a lot of things that are happening around them, which I'm super critical towards. But even with this, a bunch of individuals that aren't necessarily talking together or a certain level of alienation from one another, it definitely gave me a sense that, we're all in the same boat in a lot of ways, in terms of relative failure, in terms of inability, the same sort of struggles that we have towards the greater capitalist art market in which we are a weaker force. It doesn't necessarily mean that we use each other for that, but this comfort in numbers is something that gave me a lot of I don't know if self-confidence, but a feeling of assuredness, and it's that has been very important.
For me, I've been thinking also about this, and for me, it's a kind of controversial for me to also in the way that I think about it, you know, because I also understand that I'm going to be very critical, but I really believe that the master's programs, this one, art, it's also dealing with the conformity of the system. And when I, now that I'm no longer in a master program, and I have also this special condition that I can look to the system from an outside point of view, I don't believe in the system that we live in. So it's kind of controversial for me to ask for an institution to pave the pathway to make an effort or to connect to a system that it's not working in itself. But this success, it's, you know, it's very vague. What is success? You know, I think we are all successful. I think it's not the institution that should facilitate a pathway for success, but it should kind of like propose conditions. So then the students themselves, either they are successful or not, it always depends in the work that they do. This should not be the responsibility of the university at all. But to show where is the beginning of that bridge, I think it should be a little bit the institution to show or to provide, you know, to provide that. It's like, you know, when you think about when birds start to fly, some of them will almost fall into the floor, you know, but they have always the same input from the mother to fly.